Hi, students. I just wanted to have a short meeting with you to discuss writing as a process. You will be writing in most of your courses, especially now that we have the Florida State Standards, which require it in every subject, even ones that you've probably never written in before, such as math. And it's really important to understand that writing is a process. It's not something you can just sit down and do. It's true that not all writers work the same way, but generally speaking, there are certain basic steps that most successful writers will follow. They do it for a reason. Taking the time to work on a piece of writing in stages can improve the work and help you stay sane while you're working. There's a lot of parts to it, and today we're just going to go over them. So how do you usually write? Think about all the steps that you take when you're writing essays or stories, lab reports, articles, or any other assignments. Do these steps look familiar? I do research, outlining, and other planning first. I went ahead and checked never because I know my stepson never does. I have to have my music playing or my email open. Totally agree with that one. I type up whatever occurs to me and just turn that in. Once again, stepson is famous for that. I get feedback on my writing from others to improve it. Never. Usually even when your teacher asks to read it, you don't let them. My writing either pours out of me or I sit there blocked. Totally agree, because it's usually one way or the other. I try a new approach if my final draft still isn't working. I check never, because usually, even if it's not working, you're going to turn it in because you don't want to do it again. And lastly, I check for errors or weak spots in my writing and then fix them. Sometimes, and I find that most of the time, if I tell you exactly what's incorrect and exactly how to change it, a student will change it. But if I just suggest to them that these things are incorrect, they don't go back and look why they're incorrect and how to correct those. So let's talk about the writing process, step by step. The writing process typically consists of planning, drafting, revising, also known as rewriting, and editing. Sometimes it also involves admitting to yourself that the final draft isn't working and trying a new approach. We have a tip here. Your process probably depends a little on what you're writing and a lot on you. However, incorporating the following steps can make this process easier, more efficient, and more successful. Okay, the first part that we're going to talk about is planning. Planning refers to the work that writers do before drafting. It can include activities such as brainstorming, the events in a plot, choosing a topic, conducting some research, or organizing your ideas. I bet a lot of you remember doing this in other courses where you have done maybe a T-chart or a bubble web. There's many different ways that people can do their planning. I really think that whatever method you choose, you need to make sure your plans go on paper, because writing from plans is way easier than writing from things that are in your mind. After you've planned is the drafting stage. Drafting is when you create your very first version of whatever it is that you're writing, whether it be a story, a poem, a report, an essay, an argument. Drafting is a separate stage from revising or editing. You don't have to worry about sentence structure, spelling errors, or getting the words exactly right. Drafting is just about expressing yourself freely and getting your thoughts down on the page. Basically, when you're drafting, you're looking at your planning sheet. You're putting your planning sheet ideas into sentences and paragraphs, but you're just throwing your ideas on the paper. You may have to reorganize them. You may have to go through and fix lots of errors, but that's okay because this is not something that you're turning in. It's something just for yourself. The next step is revising. Revising involves improving your draft by making fairly big, meaningful changes to it. Sometimes revising can even mean rewriting the whole draft. For example, you might decide to begin or end your draft in a new way, or alter its structure, plot, organization, or pacing, delete whole sections of it, or even reverse your position on a topic. This is where you do a lot of moving around. You might circle a paragraph and use an arrow to move it to a new area, or you may cross things off and write new things on the side. Remember, once again, when you're revising, this is just for you. It's making life a lot easier for you than just trying to do it all in one step. After revising, we have the stage of editing. Now, editing is the process of finding and fixing little problems in your writing, errors that would make your piece difficult to read and understand. Most often at this stage, you will correct errors in spelling, grammar, punctuation, usage. Usage means the way you've used your words. You might also be tinkering with sentences and word choices to improve the variety of your sentence structure and overall flow of your writing. This is where you start noticing that you use the word although way too many times, or you kept saying I. There's words that you tend to repeat when you're talking that are fine, but when you write it on paper, it's not fine. That might be where you're tinkering with those sentences. After editing comes trying a new approach. Now, trying a new approach is an interesting step. It's not one that you often have to go to. But have you ever selected an outfit for an event? You washed it, you ironed it, you put it on, and then you decide it doesn't work well enough to wear after all. The same thing can happen when you're writing. You can draft and polish up a piece of writing, and then on closer inspection, you decide that it just doesn't work well enough to submit to your teacher. If you take stock of your final draft and still find it lacking in some important way, the best thing to do is admit this fact to yourself and put your energies into trying a different approach. Like I said, this is something that you don't always do, and hopefully you won't have to do. But know that that option is there if you're not happy with the way your paper is turning out after you've done your editing. Last step of the writing process is publishing. When you're ready to publish, it means you're finished. Once you're satisfied with your piece, you can publish it, turn it into your teacher, submit it for some sort of publication, or even post it online. I know a lot of students have blogs where they might be writing things all the time. And when you publish it, it makes it readable by others. Okay, so that's basically going over the writing process. One last piece that I want to discuss is feedback. After each stage in the process, you might want to ask for feedback from a peer, a teacher, or a family member. There really is no substitute for having a fresh pair of eyes on your work. Ask your reader to comment on what parts of your work are strong and memorable, as well as parts that could use some improvement. This is a great time to get someone to look at your work who is not the writer. When you're the writer and you write your piece, you kind of know what words are coming and what thoughts you had behind your writing. When you hand that paper over to somebody and ask them to proofread it for you to get some feedback, they don't know your thought processes. So it's a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh look at this paper, and they can probably give you some insight in what things could be done differently. Well, that's it for step-by-step process of the writing process. There'll be more videos to follow. I hope that you do take this to heart because you will have writings to do this school year. And you need to use the process.